Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you very much for joining us. And apologies we weren't here yesterday. We had Wellington Anniversary Day, which meant that our entire team weren't together to put these videos together. And it'll be the same story next Monday with Auckland Anniversary and the following week with Waitangi. It's that time of year. Anyway, let's get into the forecast because we've got plenty to talk about. We've got a low pressure zone moving into the New Zealand area and around Vanuatu, the next possible tropical cyclone, which could be heading towards New Zealand next week. Now, it's a little bit different to Cody. Cody formed out to the east and the rain went with it. This one looks more likely to come into the Tasman Sea, and that means New Zealand has a bit more vulnerability to it. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But first of all, this low pressure zone, you can see it here in the northern part of the Tasman Sea. It is large but weak. And so it's got humidity and a bit of an unstable air in the middle of it. And you time that with some daytime heating, perfect recipe for a few downpours and thunderstorms for Northland and the far north. They could do with the rain in the far north. And then it'll come into the Auckland area later today and overnight, and then it drifts out more towards Bay of Plenty. These are the thunderstorms up here that are likely to form into a tropical cyclone at some point. We think maybe this weekend. We'll show you the maps though in a moment. And La Nina doing its thing around Australia. More downpours in the north and the east has been the pattern for the last wee while. So let's get into the animated wind map because this is where you can see that large area of low pressure. But remember, it's quite weak. So it looks a bit intimidating on this map, but it's really just showing you this is the area with unstable air as it moves through. And it's tapping into some subtropical air, or actually right up near Fiji and Tonga. Their airflow is coming down and in towards Northland and Auckland. So that's why you're feeling that humidity at the moment going up. And as that low moves in, instability, humidity, daytime heating, that's what produces a few isolated downpours and thunderstorms. By the way, the darker blue-purple areas on this map show low pressure. So this is a bit of a change compared to previous years where we saw a lot of high pressure in this area in summer. This year we're seeing the high pressure zones drift further south, and because of La Nina as well, a much greater chance of getting some rainmakers coming out of the tropical areas, not only for New Zealand, but Australia and the tropical islands as well. So here is the setup for Wednesday. The leftovers of that low pressure zone moving out and across the North Island. A few more downpours and isolated thunderstorms, maybe around Bay of Plenty. The west coast has also got a few areas of rain as the southwest flow moves in around this next high pressure zone. And that is really the dominating feature. Remember, the rainfall maps here show 24 hours now of accumulation. So the pale blues, which you see mostly on this map around New Zealand, indicating showers and a bit of cloud around. You know, the pale blue area also indicates cloudy weather because if you've got a few showers, you have to have a few clouds to do that. And we are seeing a bit of rain in here with the yellow and the green. That's pushing up more towards 20, 30 millimetres. And that's again around places like Greymouth and Westport. And then later on also around parts of Bay of Plenty. When we get to Thursday, that high gets closer to us with the drier weather. But the blue colouring around New Zealand means 0.2 to 5, 6, 7 millimetres. Not a huge amount. And the bulk of that rain looks to be sort of in parts of the North Island and the East and South Island, otherwise fairly dry. And by Friday, you can see why these maps are quite useful because you can really see how dry the high pressure zone is here on Friday. So the South Island's basically completely dry. There looks like a couple of little light showers, but they look to be out at sea. And in the North Island, the humidity, the easterlies, cloudy weather, and a couple of isolated showers, but otherwise mostly dry because the pale blue 0.2, which means you might not get a shower at all. Now, as we go into the weekend, this is Friday, but see that low pressure zone up there? As we go to Saturday, that is when we start to think this could be a tropical cyclone forming. Certainly the air pressure is low enough for it, but you measure a tropical cyclone by how strong the winds are around the centre. And based on that map, all the white lines you can see in the middle there are so tightly packed together, that's gale force. And when you get a low pressure zone with gale force in the South Pacific, that's a tropical cyclone and gets a name. So this could be named on Saturday. The Fiji Met Service just here, they do long range forecast, but anything that's more than a few days out, they usually just stamp it with the low risk. But as you can see here, that one is looking, I'd say, moderately likely that we're going to see a tropical cyclone forming on Saturday. High pressure dominates New Zealand and another line of heavy downpours and thunderstorms across Australia. But I think it gets a little more interesting as we get to Sunday, and that's where we are looking at a potential cyclone, but it's dropping quite quickly southwards. And the faster it goes southwards, the faster it's likely to become an ex-tropical cyclone. but it could still retain cyclone status with gale force winds in the middle. So this is one to keep an eye on. Now, we said that about Cody, and we got all the complaints from the people who were disappointed it didn't arrive. But our tracking and modelling was, I think, pretty accurate. And what we were saying was, the further east it goes, the less of a risk it is. But this one's a little different, because if it comes into the Tasman Sea, then the further east it goes, the more likely it's going to impact Auckland and Northland and Bay of Plenty and Coromandel. At the moment, the latest thinking from the computer modelling we trust the most shows it going out into the Tasman and actually down into the South Island and falling apart. But it could be a wind and rain event. So it's worth keeping an eye on. It's not locked in. We're not saying that. But we are saying this high pressure zone is going to slowly move away. And this tropical storm, we think, is quite likely going to drop into the Tasman Sea. That is all from me. Our next update will be tomorrow, Wednesday. We'll see you then.